Hi, I'm Zane Ryan. Welcome to my Creative Critical Reflection. This is for the question, how did my production skills develop over the course of this project? So, if we look back at my preliminary tasks, it's very clear that everything was a bit limited. I filmed it at a school, so everything was limited to classrooms and hallways, and my actors were limited to my classmates because I couldn't really pull anyone out of lesson, so thank you to Tyrone and Omar for that. But when we came to filming my opening sequence, everything was a bit more open because we filmed on a weekend, so I could bring people who weren't in my class in to film. So I had Ryan, Iyad, and Vish. They were there and they were really, really good actors, so that's good. And I had all these different settings, so it stopped all my videos from feeling the same and making the audience feel too claustrophobic because they feel like they're trapped in this one building, especially with the setting we used, because we had this varied amount of locations, and I think the varied amount of locations helps add another layer to my world I'm trying to create, because having different locations makes the world seem bigger and fuller, and it's not just limited to this one small area. I think my skills with the cameras and camera equipment have improved greatly from when we first started. Like when we first started, I didn't really know what ISO and aperture and exposure was and then why we needed it. But as time went on, I learned why it was important and why we needed it in cameras. And I think it's especially good to know it when you're working with cameras as much as we were. But things like the tripods and the shoulder mounts were relatively easy to master. But the Zoom H6 recorder did take a bit of time, but once I learned how to do it, it became a big asset to my entire production. When we look back at my preliminary tasks, it's clear that everything was a bit limited. We had these simple pans and one-shots that weren't really meaningful in any way. But when we look at my opening sequence, we've got these amazing running scenes and this big 360-degree shot. We've got these big shots that really diversify the opening sequence and make it feel like something greater than it is. When it comes to camera and camera handling, I feel like my skills have improved amazingly. If you look back at my preliminary tasks, especially my Foley video, you can see just how shaky and unstable they all are. And I think that's due to the fact that we didn't really use a tripod or a shoulder mount, and that's because we didn't really know how to use it and we didn't have enough time. Thankfully, as time has gone on, I've learned more skills and how to use it better, and that's evident in my opening sequence, because you've got these stable shots that just really keep the audience immersed. Like when you have shaky, unstable shots and the audience really doesn't want to watch, it makes them feel uncomfortable. Of course, it works in some places, like in a POV horror movie, because it really puts the audience into the world, but in my type of film, I don't think it works at all. We've got that tight shot at the beginning of the film between Armitage and the buyer, and that's achieved because of a tripod, and the tight shot only has that effect because it's stable, because the audience feels like they're in a single position. The 360-degree shot was thankfully due to the shoulder mount, and without that, I think it would look too shaky and too unwatchable. Especially a lot of the running scenes, they were difficult to film with just the camera because it would just make the entire running scene feel too shaky. But thankfully, using the shoulder mount, I was able to make sure everything looked a bit more stable, and I think that's one of the things that's improved across this entire project. And my ability to handle cameras has improved greatly, thanks to my learning of how to use tripods and shoulder mounts. I think my narrative skills have also improved tenfold, because if you look back at my preliminary tasks, especially the horror movie video I had to make, everything's disjointed, nothing's really together, and that's solely because when I created, I improvised everything. I only added these shots in that I thought would look good together, and it's evident because you see this character who appears for a split second and nowhere else in the entirety of the trailer, and that's bad. It makes the thing look disjointed and not together, and that's not what I want for my opening sequence. And my opening sequence, I wrote it, I directed it, I drew storyboards for it. I made sure that the story was coherent and easy to follow so audiences would not feel lost. Of course, things changed, but as they changed, I adapted it and made sure everything made sense in the end and that everything reached a stable conclusion.